Okay, we best strap in because this is going to be an interesting one. Hello and welcome to FTR. I am Hugh McQuaid and today we are talking about Ring of Honor Final Battle 2022. This is my review of the show. The show was last night and I have some thoughts. So please hit subscribe, please like this video, please let me know your thoughts on the show down in the comments below and I will run down everything that happened on the show as well as at the end talking about some of the stuff that was said in the media scrum. So, Final Battle, the final Ring of Honor pay-per-view of the year. We've had 3, I believe, this year. We've had Supercard of Honor, we have had Death Before Dishonor, and we have now had Final Battle. Overall, this was an incredible night of professional wrestling that unfortunately is marred somewhat by booking decisions, in my opinion. Incredible in-ring action, incredible spots, incredible work rate that is just hampered by some odd choices. So shall we just get straight into the show? The first match was Blake Christian and AR Fox taking on La Faction Ingobernable, Rush and Drecalisto. I think I pronounced that right. I could be wrong, could be very wrong. But this was a really fun tag match, a really fun opening tag match. My first time seeing, I think, Blake Christian ever, and he is really, really fun. He's got really fun, high-octane offense. AR Fox has been on Dynamite a little bit. He's also really good in the ring. They work well as a unit. And then Jalistico, I think, and Rush work really well together as well. I thought this was just a really fun sort of spot fest. You know, you got Rush doing his running, throwing Blake Christian into every single, guardrail. You got some really good Jalistico and Blake Christian action at the beginning when they locked horns. Thought that was really interesting, really fun matchup, considering not a lot of these guys have showcased much in AEW. And the match was just going really well. It was a really fun opener. And then I think, I could be wrong about this, I think the finish was botched. That is my opinion. So AR Fox hit a 450 splash on Jalistico. 1, 2, it looked like there was supposed to be a kick out, but the ref counted 3. AR Fox looked incredibly shocked. And then there was this big beat down angle afterwards. The crowd were chanting, "You effed up," potentially at the ref. So I think this was a botched finish. I did think it was weird that these two sort of new signings picked up a win over Rush, who's been there a while and could really do with some momentum for La Faction Ingobernable. So I think that was a bit of a wonky finish to start the show. But it topped off what was a really fun and entertaining high-flying match. So again, like I said in the intro, just some booking decisions and botches just hampered that a little bit. But a really fun match overall. Then we got the Ring of Honor Women's Championship match. We got Athena taking on Mercedes Martinez. I really, really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed that Mercedes Martinez was playing up the heel and Athena was playing up the babyface role because she was in her hometown or home state of Texas. Potentially hometown because I think they were in Dallas. Maybe, could be wrong. But Athena's just great. Her new heel character where she just hits people really, really hard is really, really fun and interesting, and the way she's portraying that is really good and really fresh, and it's a unique feel, not just to Ring of Honor's women's division but to AEW's women's division. And they had a really good back and forth match, like there was some just cool spots. It wasn't like perfect, it was a little bit botching, a little bit plodding here and there, but Athena is just brilliant. Her facial expressions, her taunts, her moveset is incredible. She hit a Dominator spinning round into a code breaker on Mercedes Martinez, which looked great, led to a great near fall on the rope break spot, which led to I'm just going to call it the Eclipse because I know it is the Eclipse. I'm not too sure what it's actually called in AEW, but she hit the Eclipse for the win, and Athena picked up the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. I think that's a really strong decision because Mercedes Martinez has barely been featured on Dynamite, and she had hasn't had a great reign as Ring of Honor champion, unless she's been doing stuff on the indies, which I haven't particularly heard about. Athena is growing out this heel character. She's doing wonders with it, and I think this was actually one of the best booking decisions they could have made on this show, is passing the Ring of Honor Women's Championship to Athena. So thumbs up for this match, hard-hitting bout, and thumbs up for Athena and Mercedes Martinez, who worked really well together to deliver a successful match. Then we got the second best match of the night, which I was not expecting. Swerve and Our Glory, the team of Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland, took on Shane Taylor Promotions, Shane Taylor and JD Griffey. Yeah, JD Griffey. I'm just checking it wasn't Griffin. It was Griffey. This was really, really fun. So I think this story has got expired, past its sell-by date, these Swerve and Our Glory breakup issues, because now the roles are reversed. At the start, Keith Lee went for the fist bump on Swerve, and Swerve rejected him, which plays off what happened at Full Gear. Yeah, at Full Gear, when Keith Lee walked out on Swerve. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that was Full Gear. And they just weren't connecting whatsoever. Swerve was the one who was angry this time, and Shane Taylor Promotions was getting the upper hand. JD Griffey was doing convincing wrestling MMA, which is hard to do, very hard to do. Take notes, Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar. But I think he worked it really well. He combined that like wrestling offense with MMA offense. He did a tope, which is good, caught straight by Keith Lee, which was a great spot. And then there was another great spot when Shane Taylor went to do a crossbody on Keith Lee. Keith Lee caught him. That got a massive reaction. And just the story they were telling, the props to Ian Riccoboni and Caprice Coleman on commentary for bringing up the history in this match. You know, Lee signed with WWE when he was going to team with Shane Taylor back in 2017, I think it was. And that played really well into this match. And then the finish came when malfunction at the junction, Keith Lee clocked Swerve this time, and Swerve walked out on Keith Lee. But Keith Lee overcame the odds, whereas Swerve lost. Keith Lee, he took out JD Griffey and won. So that'll only fuel more dissension between these two. I'm ready for the split to come. I really am. But this was an interesting way of furthering that story. But I think it's definitely, if not, I think it should implode at Winter is Coming somehow. This team should not exist, and we should go into the Strickland and Lee feud. That's my thoughts. But overall, I think this was one of the better matches on the show. I really, really enjoyed it. It was really, really fun. Then we got something that I didn't particularly care about. The Embassy taking on Dalton Castle and the boys for the Ring of Honor Trios Championship. I did not care for this match whatsoever. I don't particularly care about the Embassy, which makes me sad because I really, really like Brian Cage and I like Dalton Castle, but there was not a lot of story around this. There were a few good spots, a good Samoan drop, double Samoan drop from one of the members of Gates of Agony. Dalton Castle yeeting his boys through the ropes. But I think it was a bit predictable that the Embassy were going to pick up the win, which they did. And yeah, they've got a really neat finish where they sort of yeet someone into a sit-out powerbomb from Brian Cage. That's pretty fun. But other than that, this story hasn't been told well on Dynamite. It's probably been told on like Dark or something like that. But, it is what it is. The issues with not having a TV show or YouTube highlights to sort of catch up on is there's no story here. And it didn't land. Dalton Castle's barely been featured on AEW. So, yeah, this didn't hit as much as I'd hope it would. It was a fun match. Just hasn't been presented as big time, essentially. Then we got a really cracking match between Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia for the Ring of Honor Pure Championship. I really love this. I preferred this to that last match. So I really like the strategy that was involved here. Before, we had a pretty unnecessary segment where the JAS came down and cut a promo and got interrupted by Wheeler Yuta. Bit unnecessary. But the actual match was fantastic. I really loved how Daniel Garcia used the rope breaks against Wheeler Yuta. He would pull him into the ropes, do a submission, and then that got classed as Wheeler Yuta's rope breaks, and he exhausted the rope breaks like that. Both guys started out with a closed fist, which, again, using the rules, using the stipulation to play up that, contrast there. And that these two guys are two sides of the same coin, essentially. You got a nice glimpse of Trent Seven looking on in the crowd. If anyone who watched NXT UK, British Rounds rules, he knows his stuff about, these kind of stipulations, which I think is really interesting, bringing Trent Seven into this Ring of Honor division. And then it just escalated from there. It just got better and better. A lot of this was Daniel Garcia actually working over Wheeler Yuta, and Yuta firing up with his comebacks and just slapping the piss out of Daniel Garcia, which was incredible to watch. And then it led to an incredible finish that I personally did not see coming, and that was a counter. So it was a sunset flip counter that Wheeler Yuta rolled up. It looked like he was going to go for a crucifix pin, but instead he laid in the elbows on Daniel Garcia. Ref stoppage. Wheeler Yuta is the new Ring of Honor Pure Championship. I think that's great. I think they told a really good story on commentary about William Regal not being there anymore as well, and that Wheeler's got to sort of carry this baton forward, which again I think is really interesting character beats for Wheeler Yuta. Again, so the sad thing about this is, so I loved it. I thought this was a really great match, but Daniel Garcia has dropped off dramatically following the inclusion into the JAS. There was a lot of talk about him being the one who beats Chris Jericho, and I think that's sort of gone now. Well, it has gone now, and I don't see that turn being as impactful as it would have been a couple of months ago. So I think that's an issue, but again, really solid in-ring work, really fun match. Okay, then we got FTR versus the Briscoes, number 3 in a double dog collar match. This was incredible, absolutely incredible. They played up really well on commentary that these teams haven't fought in a Tornado Styles match, they haven't fought in a no DQ match. And this was everything you would want an FTR Briscoes match to be. It was bloody, it used psychology, it was just enthralling to watch from the opening. This was incredible. There's so many things to run through. So for instance, you've got that incredible spot where Cash Wheeler just pulls Mark Briscoe onto some chairs from the top rope to the outside, which looked nasty. You've got Dax and Jay brawling through the crowd with the dog collar attached, and then it just escalates and there's blood everywhere. Every single man is bleeding. FTR were wearing white trunks. They were basically red by the end of this match, and it actually came just to a battle of attrition. Who could just last longer? And in the end, it was the Briscoes Jay Briscoe was pulling back on Dax Harwood with the dog collar, choking him out, and it was just the little bit of strength that Mark Briscoe had to keep to use the dog collar to pull back Cash Wheeler from breaking up the pin, and Dax passed out in an incredible spot in an incredible match, which again, I don't know if I liked it more than their first match, which is one of my favourite matches of the year. But it's close. This was so different, and I absolutely adored it. I adored it. What harms it, though, for me, in isolation, it is one of the best matches of the year, maybe of the last 3 years. However, what harms it for me, I wasn't a big fan of the angle afterwards, of the Ass Boys running down and doing the beatdown. I didn't think that was needed. I think it was a bit over the top. No one's into the feud of FTR versus the Ass Boys at all. And then the other thing is, I'm not too keen on FTR losing the belts, because I thought we were building to FTR having all four, of having Ring of Honor, IWGP, AAA, and the AEW tag team titles, and then you could tell that story of them overexerting themselves, doing work in Japan, doing work here in the UK, and defending all those belts, and that's how they start to lose them. But instead they lost them here, which didn't click with me. I thought FTR should have picked up the win. I think it's better for the Ring of Honor product as a whole, but I'm intrigued to see where it goes forward from here. Isolation, incredible match. Angle and booking afterwards, hit and miss for me. Then we got Samoa Joe taking on Juice Robinson for the Ring of Honor television title. I'm going to be honest, I did not care about this match in the slightest. Juice Robinson does not appeal to me in any of the matches that I've seen him wrestling in New Japan or his AEW match with Mox. Just does not click for me, and I thought this was a bit filler. Samoa Joe looks cool, he always does, everything he does is cool, but it was bit bog standard, went about 10 minutes, nothing too memorable here other than that Samoa Joe picked up the win with a muscle buster. I want Joe to get a better story next time we have a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, because the Wardlow story is not great. This Juice Robinson match, they tried with a video package to get you into it, but didn't work, did not work, and yeah, little unsatisfying, and I don't really have many notes on it either. So let's just move on to the main event. And the main event was Claudio Castignoli taking on Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor World Championship. This was a really, really good main event. Really enjoyed it. The opening, where Chris Jericho chases Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman, was genius. I was in fits of laughter watching that. The match itself, Claudio Castagnoli was pressing square, doing a lot of European uppercuts, and I just thought they worked really well together. They blended really well together, and I think they told an interesting story, leading to an interesting finish, in which, so there's a really nice counter. Claudio goes for the swing, and that is countered somehow into a Walls of Jericho from Chris Jericho, which I think looked beautiful and crisp. But eventually Claudio gets him in the big swing, and he swings Jericho, following some JAS interference, which he manages to fight off. Swings Jericho round about 30 times, and Jericho taps. He taps to the big swing. Very interesting finish. The big swing can now be used as a submission. I think that really puts over that move. It really does. But I think this is a bit unsatisfying of an end to Chris Jericho's reign as Ring of Honor champion, because again, I'm pretty sure we all thought this was building to Garcia versus Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor championship. That doesn't look like it's happening anymore, unfortunately, and instead we've got Claudio now leading Ring of Honor into a new sort of future, which I'll touch on in a minute. The match was really good. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a really fun main event, but again, it's sort of just the lack of potential from this, or the wasted potential, should I say, of Chris Jericho's reign, in my opinion. I don't think it was utilised to the best of its ability, and I think it coming to an end sort of unceremoniously with a pretty lacklustre feud with Claudio, to be honest, because I think it was telegraphed sort of that Claudio would win, with the stipulation that Claudio would have to join the JAS forever if he lost. So I should have realised reading into that a bit more. But overall, I thought this was a really, really fun night of wrestling. In-ring action in particular. Watch Shane Taylor Promotions versus Swerve in Our Glory. That's great. I'd go out of your way to watch Daniel Garcia versus Wheeler Yuta, because that is great. I'd go out of your way to watch Athena and Mercedes Martinez, because that was great. I'd watch the main event, and I'd definitely check out FTR versus the Briscoes in this dog collar match. I think it is, of the two dog collar matches that I've seen this year, I think I probably prefer that one to the MJF CM Punk dog collar match, but maybe that's just recency bias. Overall, I would give this show 4 out of 5. really strong Ring of Honor show, better than Death Before Dishonor, definitely better than Death Before Dishonor, and I'd say up there with Supercard of Honor for this year. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for me. But I'm going to end this video talking a little bit about what was said after the show went off the air in the media scrum by Tony Khan. So it appears that Ring of Honor's TV will be moving back to Honor Club, which is the subscription service for Ring of Honor sort of in the new year following Wrestle Kingdom. That is what Tony Khan has said. That to me sort of screams we couldn't get a TV deal for this show, like an actual TV deal, and instead it is going back to being on the streaming service. So I think the decisions to have Jericho lose the belt, to have FTR lose the belts, I think that plays into what Ring of Honor is going to become, and that I think it almost seemed like Tony Khan was like, I've given it my best shot. I've put my ROH's belts on my top guys, my top tag team guys in FTR, in my main draw, who I gave the AEW World Championship to in Chris Jericho, and we still couldn't grab a deal. So I'm going to retract those plans, go back to the drawing board, because it feels like Ring of Honor going back to Honor Club is a little bit of a regression. Like, is Ring of Honor in a better place now than it was when Tony Khan bought it back in March, I think? That is the question that is up in the air, and I don't necessarily think it is. It's essentially going back to the same platform that it was on, just with a new logo and a few new champions, because the Briscoes were champions when Tony Khan bought the promotion. So it's a very strange time for Ring of Honor. I think we were all expecting a TV deal to be announced on this show, and it doesn't look like there is. So I'm a little bit trepidatious of the future of Ring of Honor and what Ring of Honor has left to offer if it can't grab a TV deal. Me personally, I think maybe, if possible, I think this should be shopped around to, you know, other streaming services like a Netflix, like maybe a Disney Plus or a Star or a Hulu, in which you do bulk tapings, almost like Lucha Underground did, and you tape in bulk and then you have these stories play out like that. I think that is the best way to go with Ring of Honor. I don't think a weekly live TV show would draw enough of a crowd unless it was in like a Full Sail, like NXT was. So yeah, it's a very weird time for Ring of Honor. We will see what the new year has to offer, but overall, that is it. Those are my thoughts on Ring of Honor as a whole and on Final Battle, but I want to know what you guys thought down in the comments below, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.